Now we are once more. And let's make sure it's working again over on Instagram. Let's see if it works there real fast. Rachel, how are you doing today? How's Tugboat claim support going?
Tugboat claim support is going well, I think. Everybody's fighting the good fight for sure. No definite wins. But you know what? Everybody's moving along.
Mm-hmm.
And there are, when I say there's no wins, that's not true. There's a bunch of little wins, and which opens the doorway for other stuff.
Yeah.
I'm really, those little things are coming along nicely.
One thing that was encouraging to me in reading the reviews recently, and I'll wait a second, it looks like Instagram isn't quite working, because I think this would be interesting to share on there. Let me exit and come back to the live video. All right, let me start fresh on Instagram real fast and refresh our stream link on there. Sorry, everyone, if anyone's joining us from Facebook already. It is a little bit of a chore to get this live across all platforms simultaneously. But we are getting it done. New stream key. All right. Take the channel offline. And there we go. Should work now. Let me wait and make sure it pops over into Instagram. There we are. All right. So one of the things that was encouraging to me as I was reading some reviews this week, and even comments. So like I posted a video of me reading reviews, and then the comments so far have been from a couple of Tugboat users talking about their experience. And though we do have a lot of wins at Tugboat, a win being like someone is successful in overcoming some challenge in their claim, right? They finally got that supplement approved. They got a denial overturned. They advocated for themselves to some success. That certainly happens, and it happens often. But what people talk about most when they leave a review is how supported they feel by Tugboat, right? And by you, Rachel. People will say, Rachel's been such a huge help, so supportive. And they'll even talk about like the claims experience has been so frustrating and emotional and challenging for our family. And this has been such a hard season, but we're so grateful to have Tugboat here during this time. They've been a godsend in helping us walk through this really challenging situation. So Tugboat doesn't make the situation not challenging anymore, right? It doesn't remove every barrier. It just makes it maybe a little more tolerable. Maybe it allows them to get through it a little bit easier. So all that to say, you were saying claim support is going well. There haven't been a ton of wins, but what you mean by that is like, today there weren't a lot of people that overcame some large barrier. Certainly, I think you've probably interacted with dozens and dozens of people today, and I'm sure they all feel very well supported, as they always do.
I think I've done about 80 comments this week. Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, right.
I'm going to share this on my personal Instagram real fast that we are live. And that'll be the last thing before we jump into what we want to talk about today. Probably my new lighting. Very good.
Sorry.
All right, at Tugboat. All right. So today we're going to be talking about insurance policies. I said in the little video I posted just a minute ago, and Aaron and I have been talking about this endlessly. I feel like right now it's become a main point for when we're trying to think through what are the issues at the core of insurance and claims that we're butting up against, right? So as we're building Tugboat, which is a bunch of solutions to the problems that people have with claims and the issues surrounding claims, Aaron and I are constantly thinking through, like, what's at the core of this? Like, why is this happening? So that we can try and get beyond the individual issue and try and see, like, is there a systemic thing that we can be addressing here, even if it's just internally and with our users? So anyways, one of those themes that's been coming up lately is that the fact that most people shop and buy insurance exclusively based off of the premiums and the price, essentially, and not the quality. I'm not blaming people for this. I think this is the result of all of the advertising that we have all seen throughout our lifetimes, especially those of us that grew up around insurance commercials, and ones that say that they're your good neighbor, they're on your side. And we've covered that, like all these different things that just make you think, like, you know, they're all an insurance company. They all do the same thing. So whichever one makes me feel the best is the one that I should buy. And I'll feel better if it's cheaper. So 15 minutes saves you 15%, whatever it might be, when it comes to their slogans. And as we all know, those of us that work claims and work in insurance, the words that are in the policy really matter. Sometimes they matter less than they should when we're frustrated about claims, right? But the words that are in the policy really matter. And when you see a back-to-back commercial from a State Farm insurance, from State Farm to someone like Farmers Insurance, then Allstate, back to back to back, what you're not realizing is that though they're only talking about premiums and the money that you can maybe save in 15 minutes, the policy language within each of those, and then beyond that, the claim handling between each of those is vastly different. So what we're going to dive into today is some of those differences and what the effect of those differences is. So we'll look at, I think, specifically water damage exclusions, and show you that though each of these insurance policies are based off of what's called the standard form, they're called ISO forms. They're standardized within the insurance company. So there's a standard HO3 home insurance policy, which is a standard all risk homeowners insurance policy. And that's usually what most insurance companies start with, and then they just start changing it. And so that's what all these insurance companies have done. And those changes really matter, and they affect how your claims are handled. So we're going to look at specifically like 4 or 5 of the top insurance companies in the country and look at their water damage exclusions on their standard HO3 policy that they have, and see what's different about them and how that might affect you if you were to have a claim. Because what we imagine is a world in the future where people are able to shop for insurance. I've just started using this analogy this week, but a world where people are able to shop for insurance a little bit more like they might shop for an airline ticket or renting a car, right? When you rent a car, you know, you may shop based on price only, but you also know the quality of what you're getting, right? When you rent a car from the 1-star cheapest car rental place that you can, you accept the reality that the line is going to be long, the service is going to be horrible, the car might not match what you thought it was, and it's going to smell bad. Like, that's just almost certainly what's going to happen. And if you want to spend premium, you're going to get a premium experience and a premium car most likely. And it's not that we hope that insurance companies aren't able to sell policies, but we hope that the buyer, the policy holder, the homeowner buying those policies, that there's a reality where they're going to be able to know when they buy an Allstate, a Nationwide, whatever policy it is, that they can have some better expectation of how that policy is going to perform when push comes to shove. So anything else to add to that, Aaron? We've been talking about that a lot. Rachel, we've been somewhat part of those discussions with Aaron and I, but any thoughts before we jump into these policies?
No, I think just information is power, really. As long as you know what it's going to do, then it's okay. You just have to know. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, again, to highlight what you're saying, like about, because it's twofold, right? So we're purchasing based on premiums, but we're also like all the commercials don't say that it's about cost savings. There's a bunch that say it is about coverage, but like we're gonna dive into like what specifically that looks like because yeah, they're so generalized. Like you said, like we covered that, or like the all of the mayhem commercials and all of those, right? There's this uh, shift that the market we think needs to make if it's going to incentivize innovation in like actually improving the claims experience, and that is like going to be informed purchasing, and yeah, obviously there's a lot of economic factors at play as far as like their rates are already extremely high, but we have really clear insights into like that's largely just due to like poor risk distribution and a waste when it supports the insurance company's interests and when like they'll we've mentioned before have an unlimited budget to hire testing companies when it's to refute your testing company. So it's not that their operations get expensive, they'll pay more in ALE to fight a claim. So there's all of these wastes that it's are able to be reduced if the incentives optimize better claim handling. It's not we're not advocating for skyrocketing premiums, but that's happening anyway, and claims are getting worse. And so that's what we're talking about. That's what we're focusing on, and this is just going to highlight some of that for a recalibration to make a better insurance marketplace.
Yay.
Yeah, maybe we can talk about this later, or we can put a pin in this. What you said there at the end, Aaron, made me think through another point that we often talk about is like insurance companies are perfectly capable of having better claims handling practices, right? If like, and this is true, this is proven true if only through the fact that some are better than others, right? So some have figured out how to do it better, how to utilize automations better, what should be automated, what's not ready to be. So well, that's yeah, we may be able to jump into some of that as well. And all right, I wanted to make sure my microphone's coming through well as well. I realized
it is that I heard a shift. It sounds
okay, good.
Yeah.
I had it pulled off to the side there for a second. So we're going to start by going through a handful of policies, like we said. We'll start with a good old, let's see. What do you think we should start with? State Farm? Let's start with State Farm. So we have State Farm's standard HO3 policy.
Is this a California policy? Which form is
Yes.
it?
Mm-hmm.
All of these are California.
All these are going to be California. So I'm going to share the screen here. I was just trying to make sure I didn't get a message from Cody real fast saying that he was going to be joining us.
We'll see him pop up if he does. I got the whole dashboard open.
Okay, good. And then I have the Instagram open on my other window for comments. So, all right, we all seeing this?
Yep.
Yeah, but it's super zoomed in.
Oh, I can fix that. There we go. What better there? Cool. What page should we go to, Rachel?
17.
17. So we're going to go to page 17, and then I'll maybe be able to zoom in specifically on what we're going to be reading here. All right.
Number 12.
Number 12. Let's see if I can zoom in and make it nice and visible there. Okay. So right towards the bottom, a little farther. Okay, so I'll read it. What we're going to talk through is a portion of each policy. I guess, Aaron, why don't you give the intro to this? Talk about, give just a little bit of background. So an all risk policy covers all risks, then it excludes things, and then it adds them back in. So like give the kind of broad overview of what that means, because it may be confusing to someone to say, hey, we're going to talk through
what are you doing?
An all risk policy.
I just got a visitor. 1 sec. Let me talk to my daughter.
She even closed the door. She's staying. She's oh, that's great. Hannah's always welcome to join for office hours. always welcome. Anyways, what I'm going to have Aaron explain here in a moment when he's done talking to his colleague there, our beautiful Hannah. Sorry, I got distracted watching him chat with her. Anyways, Aaron, I'm going to have you explain, if you're up for it, what is an all risk policy? How do then exclusions get added back into that, and coverage get restricted and then unrestricted in certain ways? Because that's going to have to do with what we talked through here in a moment.
Sure. So like an all peril policy, typically, like it's, unless it's excluded, it's like it starts with this opening clause that's like, this covers accidental direct physical loss to the covered property. And then it goes through and lists out all the instances in which that, like the exceptions to that rule. And so that's kind of how these things are treated. And so usually the context of this section that we'll be looking at is an exclusion. So we're talking about like reiterating. It's weird because they start with that general premise and then contradict themselves a lot, because they'll reintroduce what they're covering and then exclude it again, even though the standing, like the opening is that, hey, we're covering accidental direct physical loss. And then it's just like, and this. And so they tend to get this like little bit convoluted, and it can be really difficult. And also like, it just takes a lot of understanding from reading these, knowing how they've been litigated, knowing like what the underlying principles of insurance that guide these are, to get to the heart of what a section's saying. And it's all got to be read in the context of like, what section are we in? Like, what came before this? And so, and then they also have this double column thing in almost every policy, which makes them even more hard to read. So there's all of that. And so that is kind of the context that we're reading here. So we may, as we're talking about this, kind of reference back to like some ideas that may have happened previously in this policy that give context to the way in which this is worded. But all of these are HO3. So all of them are going to be starting, like these clauses will be performing the same function in as far as like how they relate to the context.
Yeah. So Rachel, while I'm going to read this abrupt and accidental discharge section in 12 here. And can you find and let me know where like the seepage exclusion also is?
Yeah.
So I can read that next. So we're going to read exclusion language that has to do with water damage. I'm going to see if I can make myself get on camera here. Just during this section. All right. All right. So the language here, this is a State Farm, California Standard Form HO3 policy. This is some of the language around their water damage exclusion. Number 12 here, abrupt and accidental discharge or overflow of water, steam, or sewage from.
I just want a real quick correction. This is under perils insured against. So like this is actually naming what is covered, and then it'll have caveats to that. So this is losses insured, which is weird in an all peril policy. This has become really common, where they like kind of like reiterate it in a way that like a little bit undermines the opening clause that everything's covered.
It's actually talking about personal property too.
Oh, okay. Let's go down to the dwelling section then.
Dwelling is, you know what? Dwelling is, we will pay for accidental direct physical loss to the property described in coverage A unless the loss is excluded or limited in section 1, losses not insured.
So that's where I want to go. Losses not insured.
Okay.
So let me go to the water damage exclusion and losses not insured.
Page 18.
18. Okay, so again, this relates to what Aaron was talking about. This is an all risk policy, which is essentially says we cover everything except water. That's how like that sentence starts here. this policy saying we cover everything except water. And water. Actually, let me do this. I'm going to pull up on each of them so we can kind of go back and forth. Let's find where this section is with each of these policies. It's going to be in
That's on page 10 for
page 10 for Mercury.
I believe so. Yeah.
All right, let me double check. Additional coverages. I don't see it on page 10.
Wait, I'm making
All right.
wrong one. Oh, no, I was AAA is 10.
Okay.
My bad.
Let me go to that one then. I'll get AAA's pull up, and then you can find what Mercury's is.
14.
Which one around here? That's all state. AAA is 10. Sorry, y'all. If you're watching, we're just going to get these pulled up and ready to go so we can jump between each of them. All right. Theft. Water damage. Okay. Here's going to be the special one for AAA. That one's going to be here. We're going to get to see how each of these explain these a little bit differently. All right. One more time. What was Mercury's?
14.
14.
I wish somebody, this one needs to go away. I don't like this one
Mercury's?
at all. Yeah.
Does theirs say caused by perils insured against is 13? I think we're still only under the perils insured against their exclusions.
But it says we insure against risk of direct physical loss to property, except for number 2. We do not insure blah blah blah.
Except for excluded. We do not insure, however, for losses under Section 1 exclusions. So, are you seeing what I'm seeing here?
No,
I'm in Mercury's on page 3.
Oh yeah. And then there's a whole other section.
The exclusion section. Section 1, earth movement, water damage. Here we go. This is where we want to be for Mercury's. We'll get that highlighted there. Look at their water damage exclusion. So now we got we have State Farm, then Mercury. I believe this one was. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Back down to the highlighted section there. And then what was this third one here?
Allstate maybe?
AAA. Hard to go back and forth between them. And then Farmers, did you find the page for that one?
I did. Page 15.
All right. Page 15.
But it's the extensions of coverage limited. So that might not be the exact spot.
Farmers, limited water coverage. So there's, I wonder, Aaron, I'll have you look at the Farmers one for a second and see how they outline their water coverage. If it's just all water damage is excluded and then it's named back in as a named peril.
All right, yeah, I'll work on it.
Or if it's the other way around. All right, now all states, last one.
Page 5, but I'm not really sure that's
Losses we cover under A and B. Losses we do not cover. We do cover. Sudden action resulting from fire. We do not cover wear and tear. Freezing. Seepage. Okay, so we're under. We do not cover the following. All right, this is kind of all lined up here. It's going to be this section here. Okay, cool. That's enough. And then Aaron, when we get to the Farmers one, let me know. All right, we're going to start with State Farm. So a quick recap, if you weren't here already, we're going to be looking at insurance policies and specifically looking at their water damage exclusion language. for your standard California HO3 homeowners insurance policy and see how these vary. We'll also talk a little bit about our experience as adjusters and advocates and support in helping people through claims like this and how these different carriers perform. We have worked, advised on, supported through, represented, even adjusted for many of these companies that we're going to be talking through. So our experience is pretty broad here. All right. So for the State Farm policy, what it says is we cover all damage. You can read this sentence starting into this as this. We cover all damage to your dwelling except for except for damage caused by number C here, water. Water meaning flood, surface water. This does not include water solely caused from the release of water from a swimming pool, spigot, sprinkler system, hose, or hydrant. That's really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Specific.
I'm thinking of who you're thinking of.
Like, wait, is this not in the policy that I'm thinking of?
Mm-hmm.
It says a pool right there. Anyways,
Mm-hmm.
this just became really relevant for a claim we've been talking about for a while. Waves, including tidal waves, tsunami, siege, tidals or tidal water, overflow of any body of water, including any release, escape, rising body of water, or any water held, contained, controlled, or diverted by a dam, levee, dike, any other type of water contaminant, diversion, flood, or control device. Spray, surge from any of the items. Let's go to this one. This one's important. Water or sewage from outside the residence premises plumbing system that enters through sewers, drains, or water or sewage that enters into or overflows from within a sump pump well, or any other system designed to remove surface water that is drained from the foundation area. That's an important one. Water or sewage below the surface of the ground, including water or sewage that exerts pressure on, seeps, or leaks through. Let me get up here. We're looking up here. It's a little bit cut off for you all, but a building, structure, sidewalk, driveway, swimming pool, or other structure. And then it keeps going here. This is a really important one, the most common one that is cause for denial. Water meaning seepage or leakage of water, steam, or sewage that occurs or develops over a period of time and is continuous, repeating, gradual, intermittent, slow, or trickling, and from a heating or air conditioning automatic fire protective sprinkler system. So, or a plumbing system, including from within, and is from a plumbing system, including from within or around any shower stall, shower bath, tub installation, or other plumbing fixture, including their walls, ceilings, or floors. All right. That's all talking about water. This is all the language that they had to add into their policy. This is State Farm's California policy, standard homeowners policy, to try and really hone in on what they want to cover and what they don't want to cover when it comes to water damage to your home. So I want to pull some of your guys' opinions in here, some thoughts here. But I also want to be able to compare and contrast this in the right way. So to summarize, this policy says everything is covered under this policy except for water damage. And water damage means all these types of flood and surface water. And some of these words are really important. This does not, surface water does not mean water from a swimming pool. So if your swimming pool was to overflow and go into your house, you could, and damage something, you could say that that's covered. Rachel and I were laughing because there is a claim that we know that State Farm has denied where it was damage caused from a swimming pool overflowing into a property. And the most important, and then water or seepage from outside the residence premises plumbing system that enters through sewers or drains. So this is a really important bit of language here. This is saying that water from off of your property. So think that the city causes some type of backup, or there's a big storm surge and your pipes start backing up because of it. That's not covered. That water came from outside your property. But if you have a blockage within your pipes on your property and that causes water to back up into your house, that's different, right? And there are big disputes over this. I've had them with State Farm for a blockage that was within someone's property, within their own pipes, that they have tried to deny using the backup language, overflow of water. So, and backup through sewers and drains. So a lot of times someone's toilet will overflow. They'll quickly get a denial letter that says, hey, this was a backup from your drains. We don't cover backup through sewers and drains, but it's really specific here. And it says that it has to do with water from outside your residence premises, which includes your whole property. Building structure, and then seepage and leakage. The most important language here that we're going to contrast between some other insurance companies is going to be right here. Seepage or leakage of water, steam, or sewage that occurs over a period of time. And we'll pause there and see how that compares to the next insurance company. So the next one was AAA, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Mercury. Close enough. So any thoughts there on State Farms? I mean, already we can see that Mercury's is going to be their language around water damage is not as specific here, right? There's just not as much that they're going to say about it. But any thoughts that you guys want to share before we jump into the next one?
Well, I would point out the obvious here. What is a period of time? What does that mean?
Yep.
I mean, that's going to be common in a second, but
absolutely. All right, let me go back to proper screen here. Okay, so looking at Mercury's, we cover everything except for, just like the other one, water damage. And what water damage means is flood or surface water, groundwater, storm surge. So this is going to be really similar to what we just read in State Farms, really similar to every homeowner's insurance policy. Waterborne material that enters or backs up through sewers or drains, or which overflows or is discharged from a sump pump or sump-related equipment. So this is much less specific than State Farm's language around a backup. State Farm got specific and said if that backup came from your residence premises, your property, then it would be covered. Mercury's doesn't say that, but it would be arguable that it still means that. And the reason being, there is case law. I'm not an attorney, and if Cody was here, my favorite attorney, but he's not, he would back me up on this, I'm pretty certain. But there is case law that essentially says that the backup endorsement has to do with water that backs up from your property. And that's really important. Sorry, I just knocked over 2 different cups in one swipe of my hand. This language is much less specific, but should mean the same thing. But what that means is that if you have and I know this, if you have a backup through your toilet with a mercury loss, it is going to be even more difficult than it is with State Farm to get that denial overturned. They will often deny it and say, we don't cover this if your toilet overflows because we don't cover backup or overflows. And then you have to dispute it. And you sometimes have to find an attorney that writes a letter that says, hey, no, this case law says that this is covered. But anyways, much less specific there. All right, now there
is another water part in Mercury's.
Okay, where's that?
It is page 15, sudden and accidental. This is what they do cover with regards to personal property.
Oh yeah, I don't want to read the personal.
Wait, hang on. There's more. I forgot. There's more. Up underneath one section, perils insured against. It talks about it does not, if it's caused by constant or repeated seepage or leakage of water or steam, or the presence, this is the part that gets me, or the presence or condensation of humidity, moisture, or vapor that occurs over a period of 14 days or more.
So this is it's so weird. There's 2 different sections with exclusions, coverage A and B. Mm-hmm. Where does it say that? What page are you on?
I'm on page 14, number 5.
Okay. So they have an exclusion section, and then they have a coverage section, and then they have an exclusions within the coverage section.
Wait till you see Farmer's policy, Cameron.
It's going to be even more fun. And this is why people need assistance in disputing things. So anyways, we do not insure, however, for loss excluded under section 1 involving collapse or caused by these. So this is another section of exclusions. And constant or repeated seepage or leakage of water or steam, or the presence of condensation or of humidity, moisture, vapor that occurs over a period of 14 days or more. So the big difference between State Farms and Mercury's here, where Mercury wins as far as language goes, maybe not as far as claim handling goes. They're pretty poor on this matter as well. But State Farm gets to use this language that says we don't cover water damage that occurs over a period of time. And that's not defined. It's not defined by the court, as far as I know still. It's not defined within this policy. So it's a period of time, a few seconds, a few days, 14 days, nobody knows. And at least in Mercury's, they say if they can prove essentially that it occurred over a period of 14 days or more, then it's excluded. That means if the pipe was leaking for 14 days or more, it's excluded. And I don't want to get into how they should have to prove that and the preponderance of evidence and things like that. But just know that there's a difference there, pretty decent difference. All right, we're going to move on to.
But hold on, there's one
more spot with water damage language in Mercury's.
Mercury, scroll down just a little bit past 5. There are exceptions to 2C6, which is the wear and tear bit, but it has a lot of other water stuff in there that includes some things back.
So, this is we do cover what's the word I'm looking for? Sorry.
Damage, consequential damage.
Yeah.
Not to the system itself, but
let's move on because we'll run out of time. We're already at 3:40.
Okay.
More language there that has to do with water damage. So you can see State Farm consolidated pretty much all their water damage language right here. Mercury's is broken up into at least 3 sections. Says similar things, but is more specific about periods of time and how long things can be leaking. Is less specific on what a backup means, which means a denial from them around a backup of a sewer or drain would be harder to overcome most likely. And then getting into AAA, I believe it is here. Yep. Let's read theirs. So they cover everything except water damage. And water damage for them means flood and surface water. We're not going to read that section. Outside the plumbing system on the residence premises that enters the residence premise. So this is their backup endorsement. They also make it clear, like State Farm did, that this is water that's off the residence premises and enters back into it. Outside water coming in. Not inside water that you flushed and came back in. Water below the surface of the ground, including that which exerts pressure on or seeps or leaks, flows through a building, sidewalk, driveway, foundation, swimming pool, spa, or other structure. And I'm going to pause here for a second because this section, which has not been all that important in most claims in my career, is very important and one that I'm aware of that I worked on as a public adjuster that's now involved in a lawsuit, because this language in pretty much every policy has these words right here: water below the surface of the ground. And in this premium policy that was sold, they took out that language and it just says water which exerts pressure or seeps or leaks through a building, sidewalk, driveway, foundation. So they took that out. So now in their opinion, it doesn't have to do with water that was below the ground. It's any water that seeps through a building is no longer covered. And therefore any rainwater that came in to the building is no longer covered in this premium policy. So they took out just a little bit of language there and based their whole dispute off of it. I don't think they'll win it in the long run, but anyways, okay, so here, they don't cover water damage to the interior of a building from rain, snow, or sleet unless the walls or roof of the building have first sustained a loss from a cause of loss covered under Part 1 that created an opening through which the rain, snow, or sleet entered. State Farm doesn't have a storm-created opening endorsement, right, Rachel?
I mean, no, it isn't. No.
So what this is saying here,
It kind of does, actually. It's under coverage B. Or the personal property does.
That it always is under the personal property bit, but we're talking about dwelling. So, this is a really important bit of language that some policies have and some policies don't. Really important, especially if you have an older roof that might be prone to wind damage, or not prone to wind damage, or you're worried about your roof leaking and what that can mean for you. What this means is that if it rains and your house starts flooding with water from all that rain, you better hope that there was wind damage that opened up a shingle or tore up, like made a tile blow off the roof, broke a window with a tree branch, and that's how the water came in. Because if the water came in because your roof is old, or there was debris piled on your roof from leaves up against your chimney,
Flashing.
and it didn't allow it to you're flashing, and it didn't allow it to drain off properly, and it backed up and then flowed in, whatever it might be. If it's not a hole in the building that was caused by wind or something like wind, like hail, then it's not going to be covered, that water damage. And we've seen very extensive damage to buildings that is denied because they had this language in there, which is really strong language. It's called a storm created opening endorsement. And if you can't find that storm created opening, the claim will be rightfully denied.
And I just want to clarify that, like, it used to be more common to see what they called like wind-driven rain being covered, right? It didn't have to damage the structure. If it blew in because it's coming at an angle and it goes in your vents, it didn't damage the structure, but it still got in the house, and you have a claimable loss because this rain came in. And it's like, we're not just talking about old roofs. We're talking about rain that gets into the house that without damaging the exterior. Old roofs are just an easy example. If it's lifting your shingles and blowing in that way and overwhelming the waterproofing system because it's just not shedding down the way that you would expect, it's common in valleys, things like that. That's where you see these kind of claims getting denied the most, if that exclusion is in place.
Mm-hmm. All right. Next policy. So that was AAA's. So quick recap. State Farm didn't have that storm created opening endorsement, but it has language that's not helpful around how long a leak could be going on. Mercury has more specific language around how long a leak could be going on. It doesn't have a storm created opening endorsement. I don't think it did. But does have really broad language around what a backup is that they would use against you, most likely in denying if your toilet backed up. And AAA's here has a storm created opening endorsement, which means that rain damage, if it didn't come in through a hole in your roof created by wind or hail, it's not going to get covered. All right, last couple here. We're looking at, I believe now we're on all states policy, and we're going to look at theirs as well. So they do not cover. Make it smaller. Oh, you're right. Sorry. Let's see. Sorry, we're going to have to be kind of zoomed out there. Okay, so I'm just going to hone in on a little bit of their language here that's at the bottom of the page. They don't cover, they have a similar freezing language. We haven't read that in the other ones yet. And then they have their seepage endorsement here, which says we don't cover water that's we don't cover seepage, meaning continuous or repeated seepage or leakage over a period of weeks, months, or years of water, steam, or fuel. Rachel, what does weeks, months, or years mean?
I mean, I don't know. Yeah.
A
period of time. Sounds like a period of time.
It sounds like it, but like in our experience with every carrier that we've worked with that has that language, they'll essentially interpret it to mean 14 days. The same as Mercury wrote in theirs, which was 14 days. They'll say like at the smallest amount of time that's listed in this language is weeks. So, and 2 weeks is 14 days. So weeks, months, or years means that if your leak was going on for more than 14 days, like the Mercury one, it's not going to be covered. Doesn't matter if it was hidden. There are some nice policies that will say, if you could not have known that the leak was going on, i.e. was in your wall and you didn't know, then it is covered. None of these policies that we're looking at do that, add that coverage back in, but there are some. I haven't seen one in a long time, but they are very nice. We don't cover leaks from within or around plumbing, any plumbing fixtures, including but not limited to, oh, this is seepage still. So it's seepage from plumbing fixtures, in and around plumbing fixtures, including shower stalls, baths, tubs, insulation. So this means like what happens around showers, if your floor drain, if the seal around it goes bad or a crack opens up and you don't catch it right away and it's leaking and it starts to rot away at that shower pan, not going to be covered, most likely. Is there any more language in this Allstate one that we should read? There probably is, but I don't want to run out of time and I want to go through the farmers one. So Aaron, why don't you talk us through what we should look out in the farmers one since you dove in on it? You there? You're muted probably.
What's up?
Can you talk us through what we should be looking at on the farmers one?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I had to step away for just a second. I just got back, so that's decent timing. Yeah. So first, just go to the page 1 of 48.
Okay.
And if you look, so like under section 1, uninsured types of loss or damage, right? So right there, they mention uninsured types of loss or damage, water damage. And then if you drop down to section B, that same thing, excluded causes of loss or damage, water. Like those apparently are different. You have uninsured types and excluded types. And then you jump over to the limited water coverage on the section 1 on the left side, right? Like it's just kind of bananas the number of times they like address this. And yeah, it's pretty spectacular. I'm not sure what you're looking at right there.
Section 1 property coverages. Sorry, I'm trying to make it big enough for everyone to see.
But you go down further. Wait, weird. What page are you on? This is super weird. I'm looking at it bigger.
What page are you on?
Just zoom out.
I'm on page 2 of 48.
Oh, in like the PDF?
Nope.
Oh, so you should page 2. No, you should be on page 1 of 48. It's all on page 1.
Okay.
So right, like at the top there, uninsured types of loss.
Yeah, I see that.
Water damage. And then you go down to B. Excluded causes of loss, water.
Yeah.
And then on the left side, don't scroll down, just go to the left side. Section 1, extensions of coverage. And then
limited water coverage.
Limited water coverage, yeah. So there's just like, it's addressed multiple times. And as you go through this policy, it's going to go kind of crazy. But then the next place to stop that just kind of helps give context for all of this is if you go down to page 10, where it says section 1, loss or damage insured. It's we insure accidental, direct physical loss or damage to that property described in section 1, types of property insured. And then, but like the last line, loss or damage does not include functional impairment. Right there, number 1.
Functional.
So they are attempting to, as they set the tone for which they are determining what constitutes damage before getting in any of the coverage, to exclude functional impairment, which is like really hard to comprehend. Like I don't understand like how you can exclude that.
Let me see. Loss or damage means theft of or distinct and demonstrable physical injury or destruction of the property. Loss or damage does not include functional impairment. What does that mean? I've never.
It's very contrary to the way that functional is most commonly used in insurance policies, right? It's usually like a prerequisite for determining that the damage is sufficient enough in like when you have a cosmetic waiver where it's like, hey, we're not covering this unless it causes functional damage.
Yeah. That's why. So for context, anyone that's watching here, the reason this is confusing is because typically functional damage or functional impairment is used as something that to explain what is covered and limit you elsewhere. So cosmetic damage would mean like if your roof has hail damage, but that hail damage isn't making your roof perform any less than it was before, it's just cosmetic damage. If it just dents some siding, it's just cosmetic damage. But if it puts a hole in your roof, then that's functional damage because now the roof isn't performing as well as it was before. And so usually they'll use functional in that way. And in here in this farmer's policy, they're saying we do not cover damage does not mean functional impairment. So it's hard to understand, comprehend what they might mean by that. So economic obsolescence. Anyway, so yeah, go on.
Yeah, the rest of those are largely irrelevant. But then you can jump down to page 13.
Yeah.
Which is the first time they talk about water as it relates to
coverage.
Yeah, to coverage.
All right, limited water coverage. Let's get into the fun part here. Our last little bit of time. So we're looking at farmers policy with this last little bit. Limited water coverage. We provide limited water coverage for accidental, direct, distinct. Sorry, let me see. I thought I saw a comment pop up. Okay, no, it didn't. We provide limited coverage for accidental, direct, distinct, demonstrable, physical water damage of covered property from direct contact with water only if the water results from the melting or buildup of ice on portions of the roof or gutters.
Don't read all of these. It's a lot.
Yeah. No, but the next one's important. Hail, rain, snow, or sleet entering a building structure caused by the following: fire, lightning, explosion, riot, aircraft, vandalism, collapse, falling objects, wind, hail, or theft and attempted theft. It's hilarious that they tied hail, rain, snow, or sleet to explosion and riot somehow, but it's essentially
if it's not like proximately caused by one of the other perils in the policy, like they're basic. It's a weird way of like stating what's already true, right?
What's weird is they try. Well, I know this from experience. So I remember this is the newer farmers policy. They used to have a really standard bit of language that was a storm created opening endorsement, which said we don't cover damage from rain unless it enters your house through a storm created opening. Wind, hail, comment, like what we just read in AAA's policy as well. Now, then they changed it to this one where they say we cover hail, rain, snow, or sleet entering a building if it enters it because of the following reasons. Any of the following: fire. So if your house was on fire and then water came in, if lightning struck and then water came in, or if riot, aircraft, and falling objects and then water came in. Now, this was what was interesting is it seems like they brought in the coverage a little bit because it says if rain enters your house because of wind. Well, now it sounds like what it's saying is we cover wind-driven rain again, right? If wind blew the water into your house. So if your window was just open and then it rained and it blew a bunch of water in and caused damage, that would presumably be covered by this, right, Aaron?
At this moment in time, before reading the rest of the policy, you could draw that conclusion. And actually, it's really weird as we move on, kind of how the water gets muddied in even what this policy is talking about.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah, so like it adds this in, and as convoluted and like layered this is already, it gets worse.
Okay, so anyways, it's like farmers, and I know from experience that farmers change this language, seem to broaden it and put wind-driven rain back in. But when we have disputed it because they denied a claim without a storm created opening, they essentially said, no, this still means the same thing. There had to have been an opening torn in the house that was from wind, not the wind just blew the water. It doesn't count. And so we think they're wrong. That is being disputed on that claim. But Aaron, go on as to the next section that you want us to look at.
Yeah, so this section continues for a while, right? It's got all these bullets. are all these numbered things. It gets a little more specific into like the plumbing, and like sudden accidental discharge at 0.4.
Yeah.
And then has a weird caveat in B, which is actually, if you're tracing the flow of this, which is something you have to always realize, like, is this a sub point of a prior point? Like, what's the context that I'm reading? So all of that's under A, all of those like instances that they're saying like, oh, we'll cover it if it's this, but then it jumps to B under 0.4. And it's like, the limited coverage for water described in subsection A4 above applies even if the sudden, abrupt, and accidental discharge, eruption, or overflow of release of water is caused by the following section 1 part B. So then, and then it lists like a bunch of more things, which is like again, broadening coverage and helping it seem. But it all be fine except for then you're gonna scroll down to page 19 at the bottom, which is within uninsured types of loss or damage and excluded causes of loss or damage, where it's now water damage. We do not insure uninsured loss or damage that consists of, and it actually doesn't change anything. It just adds more confusion. And I think what's really useful to the carrier in this is that they've said they don't cover water so many times in this policy. Even if you follow the whole thread, you realize that they do, that it gives them language to cite in your denial. And if you find like, oh no, that doesn't seem to apply, it's like, oh, well, here's another way we said it. Still doesn't apply. But if you look at this whole section of uninsured type of policy, the end of every clause under the A, like the initial paragraph intro, is except as may be stated otherwise. Except as may be stated otherwise. So this whole thing's undermined by the fact that it's stated otherwise in the policy, but they're like just giving, like they just keep restating things. It's like, and this is true of so many policies, that they don't feel tailored to the specific coverage, which is kind of unacceptable in the world that we live in, where like you can like give somebody an actual policy that fits their situation and is tailored to what they're purchasing. But instead it's like, hey, let's throw this like grab bag at them, and then they have to follow the trail to figure out what's applicable and what's not. And that's kind of an insane predicament. And that's what we're having here. So this thing, it seems like really what's relevant from what I can tell. And I mean, there's more sections where they're having like a added coverage for sump pump backup and overflow. Water gets discussed in this so many times, though it seems to be the most prevalent one is the section that we just read. I don't see that actually getting changed by any of the language, but there's a whole lot of other language that you have to sift through and do like mental gymnastics to figure out what's true and what's not.
Yeah, that's crazy. Man, we are already at the hour, which is kind of nuts. We just looked at, and I want to spend some more time probably just on these same policies with this same issue. The crazy thing is each of these policies, they vary anywhere from one's 42 pages, one's 33, 20, 19, and this last one is, what do we have here? It's not telling me that how many pages. 79. And some of that has to do with just how they formatted the pages, but some of it has to do with farmers. It's not just page formatting, is that they put a lot more words into theirs when it comes to certain types of damage. And what's difficult is there are times when it can benefit you when something is really specific in your policy, right? Because you can point to, I do not fall into this specific instance that you are talking about in this policy that you use to deny my claim. Rather than when they have this broad language that they use sometimes where in those instances, they can just apply it broadly and you feel like you're kind of arguing against something that's really ethereal and ill-defined, and therefore you're having trouble placing where your argument should even be. So all that to say, we only looked at water today, and water is probably the area where there's the most variance and things like this. There's probably less when it comes to fire, and water is the area with most common the most common disputes that we see as well, other than the smoke and wildfire losses. But this is the direction that policies are going in. They are separating and pulling things out and getting specific where it's helpful to them, getting more vague where it's helpful to them in certain instances, talking about what smoke damage is, what smoke damage isn't. Do we cover abatement? Do we not cover abatement? And you, as the buyer of the policy, have no idea. One of the most unfortunate facts is if you, and I know this because I've bought and shopped for insurance before, if I was applying for any of these insurance policies because I wanted to switch, and I called up AAA and said, hey, I want a homeowner's insurance policy in my house. Can you send me your standard form homeowner's insurance policy that would be applicable for my house so I can review it and contrast it compared to these other ones? They won't do it. We've tried. You have to, it's the craziest thing where oftentimes they'll make you sign the policy before they'll give you the policy. Not always, not every carrier, not every brokerage, but anyways, not only can you not often see these things before you buy a policy, but even if you could, imagine trying to decipher what this might mean and what it might mean because of claims. There's, in some ways, we intuitively can talk about how does Farmers handle claims and how does State Farm handle claims. And Rachel, you used to work for State Farm, so you know how they handle claims from the inside. And I was a public adjuster arguing with State Farm, so I know how they treat public adjusters. And like that's less policy, right? And more claims handling guidelines and communication and those things. And those things really, really matter. But everything we talked about today is not claims handling guidelines and communication. It's like what is in these policies, and it's vastly different for each of them. So all that to say, we hope to help facilitate a future where people can make a little bit better informed decisions. If you are particularly concerned about water damage because you know other people in your neighborhood have had large water losses and you want to make sure you have good protection from that, you should know when you buy your policy, is it the most restrictive water damage language that you could possibly be right? How do they cover these other things? And so, those are some of the things that we're hoping to facilitate through our tools, through our online membership. Rachel, thanks for joining today. We are over time. That was awesome. And let's dive into this a little bit deeper maybe next week and look at some more details on this. Anything else you want to add before we finish up?
Nope. That's it.
All right. Sounds good. All right. Well, I will talk to you later. We'll see everyone next week for our next office hours, Wednesdays at 3:00. Thank you. Bye.